This is Support is Sexy, episode 526, with Naima Beckles and Michele Arrieta, co-founders of For Your Birth. Welcome to Support is Sexy. I'm your host, Elayne Fluker, entrepreneur, author, and founder of Chic Rebellion Media. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, I bring you inspiring women entrepreneurs who share their wins and lessons to help you take your business to the next level. Here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Support is Sexy. I'm excited to have you here. It just would not be the same without you. And if you are a woman entrepreneur who is either going through a rough patch in your business or maybe you're having crazy success in your business, here's the thing that you still need no matter what: support. And I want you to go to supportissexymastermind.com to connect with a global community of women entrepreneurs who are there to support you. You know, I say that my work is an intersection between leadership and self-love. So whatever the stage that you're in your business, you need support in both areas: how to be a great leader, but how to remember to take care of yourself with self-love and self-care. And that is what we offer in the Support is Sexy Mastermind. So including this community and network of women all over the world who are there to support each other, creating businesses and lives that we love. We also have workshops with other women entrepreneurs that are exclusively available for you, great content that you get delivered to you every week in your inbox, connections through our Facebook group, and mastermind chats with me. I'm so proud of it, and I'm so proud, even more so, of the service and support that I've been able to give to women entrepreneurs and that the community gives to each other. So please check it out, supportissexymastermind.com. You do not have to do this alone. And that is actually the perfect segue into my conversation, a lovely conversation that I had with Naima Beckles and Michele Arrieta, co-founders of For Your Birth. In this episode, we talk about For Your Birth and how they not only work with families that are giving birth, but also with doulas and how they support the doulas, which is something that I hadn't thought about before. I've had conversations about what doulas are not, which we also talk about in this episode, but thinking about what it takes to be a doula, really the business of being a doula, the kind of support that doulas need, and then how For Your Birth supports doulas in supporting families. We also get into the importance of making sure that marginalized families feel empowered throughout their birthing process and how For Your Birth is working toward that. Also, Naima and Michele give some great advice on how to get support after the birth. We always think about, right, the pregnancy, the day of the birth, and that's it. Well, what about the postpartum period? That is as important. So whether you're a family, of course, that's expecting, or you're a doula and thinking about how you can create a business or get in touch with an agency that might be able to answer questions for you, this is the episode for you. So now, without further ado, Naima and Michele of For Your Birth. So Naima and Michele, thank you so much for joining us for Support is Sexy. I'm excited to chat with you both.
We are really looking forward to it.
Thank you. So our first question, when did you first fall in love with entrepreneurship?
I fell in love with entrepreneurship as I was doing it. So I didn't exactly know that I wanted to be an entrepreneur until after I had my first child. I knew that I wanted to work, but I wanted to work on my own terms. I wanted to be in control of my own schedule. And I kind of fell upon the work of first becoming a childbirth educator and then a doula while being a parent who was mostly at home and parenting from home.
Mm-hmm. And Michele, what about you?
Well, I studied to be an actor, and what they don't teach you in performing when you're getting your degree in performing arts, besides that it can be a lot of money that might not go anywhere, is that you have to really learn how to be a business person for yourself and how to market yourself and negotiate and all of those things. So I was kind of prepped that was going to happen for me. But then also all of the little jobs I've had in my life were always helping mostly other women with their small businesses once they realized that to propel their dream and to manifest like the big vision of what they wanted, they needed somebody, usually it ended up being me, to deal with the kind of day-to-day minutia of it all. And so I watched a lot of people do that in the realm of like a personal assistant. So I knew that that's how I wanted to operate.
That supporting people will be a part of your journey somehow.
Exactly. And so supporting people through birth, and then also now supporting people who support people in birth.
Right. So Michele, tell us your background and where you grew up.
So I mostly grew up in Colorado. I was born in South Texas, and my background and where I grew up. So my mother was a single mom, and she had a fiery hustle in her, and knew and was always demonstrating that she was mining her own strengths and seeing where in the community that was needed, and then just pitching herself. And so I saw that. And then my dad is a business administrator and a feminist and a women's health worker. And so, so I grew up with those two people. And it's so funny now that I'm doing what I'm doing, watching those two things having very organically blended into each other in me.
And Naima, what about you? Where did you grow up?
I was born in Brooklyn, but I grew up in Los Angeles. So my parents moved to Los Angeles after a snowstorm.
I was going to say, how did never came back?
Yeah, never came back. But I came back, so I'm now based in New York. All my family, lots of my family stayed here before they then moved down to Florida. And I am, I guess, first generation or first and a half generation born in the U.S. So my dad was born in Kingston, Jamaica. My mom was the youngest in her family, who was also from Jamaica. She was born here. And we also had a hustle. So being like the kid of immigrants, like the hustle was about like learning this country and learning how to move in it in a way that's very different from like the home country from our parents. So it was about like trying to just always be one step ahead. And I think being an immigrant is an entrepreneurial act in itself, because it means that you're like going to pick up and do something new, go out there and be a lot on your own. So I certainly have that in me from my grandparents, from my parents who moved from across the country to land in a state where they knew no one. And then now, I'm doing that with starting this business here with Michele.
And Naima, can I just, isn't it funny being, first or second generation American, as I am too, and my wife is an immigrant, just like how much that's so similar to being a doula, in that you have to like learn these things ahead of when somebody else is learning them, and then help them navigate and translate and work the system and be by their side. And like, anyway, it's that exactly. Yeah, it's that exactly. It's being one step ahead, but also paying attention and being reflective to all the different steps that you've taken already, so that you can grab someone by their hand and show them the path that you've already carved out for yourself, that you too had carved out for you. Right.
That's a beautiful explanation from both of you about just what you do, your work overall now with your company For Your Birth, and how you work with doulas and helping them sort of navigate, as you're talking about, navigate this new territory. But also I would think too, going with that same comparison of being able to help them speak the language of the moms or the parents that they work with too, right? Because I would imagine everyone is different, and what I would like for my birth might be different from someone else. So you have to help them do that as well.
Yeah, that's right. So it means that we have to show up with people or for people, ready to listen to what their hearts desire, and also being able to translate for them what expectations might be placed on them, and then how the work of the doula is to figure out our journey together with those clients, those people that we're working with.
Mm-hmm. Now, Michele, where is your family from? You mentioned that your family's immigrants too.
Oh, yeah. My wife came over from Ireland in the 80s, and my grandfather came from Colombia. And he, the famous story is that he had to travel 2 days through the jungle on a mule to get to med school. And he was an OBGYN. And then he immigrated to, well, through New Orleans, he went to South Texas and became the only Spanish-speaking OBGYN in this whole big area of South Texas, where there was obviously a lot of like, Chicano people and Mexican people. And so that's where my family's from.
Wow, that's amazing. I love that. Now tell us how all of this came together for the two of you to come together to create For Your Birth. How did we birth this company?
Well, we were in a training together, actually, and a doula to be doulas. We were in a training together, and it struck me immediately that this work was going to be hard to do by myself, that I was going to have to learn, again, how to be an entrepreneur, how to not only be a skillful doula and show up for pregnant people, but how to manage all of the entrepreneurial things and manage being on call and all of that. And I, at the exact same time that I was so psyched and really wanted to do it and was like, saw my whole future laid out in front of me, I also slammed on the brakes and was like, I'm not doing this the way that the industry is expecting me of doing that, which is being on call, being all by myself and wearing 16 hats. Like I'm not doing that. And I said it out loud in the room. And then it was like a year later that Naima called me and was like, hey, do you remember me? I like me. I'm in.
I like what you said. So is that though an expectation that a lot of doulas hear and experience when they're going through training, sort of this, you have to be all things to your clients?
You do. Yeah. Yeah. You have to be all things to your clients. We as doulas place this really we put this expectation on ourselves that we are going to be almost superhuman for our clients. So we're going to be on call for them 24/7 for 5 weeks or however long the on-call period is. And we're going to be there by our client's side, supporting them in birth. But at the same time, there's a lot of back house work that you have to do as a doula who's working in private practice, which is you have to make sure that you are marketing yourself, you're getting clients, you are managing a social media presence, you have all your accounting correct for tax season, you have keeping track of your mileage, you've done all this work, and you have to show up and take care of people. So that's a heavy, heavy, heavy load for doulas to bear. And I knew, like Michele said, that I did not want to do that work all by myself. What appealed to me was to be in partnership with someone else. And Michele and I figured out how to do that. And for a while, we worked as just two doulas. So we took all of our clients together. We saw that was a model that was kind of foreign to the industry. A few doulas were working in partnership, but it was not at all the norm, and it still isn't quite the norm. Doulas primarily work in solo practice. And then after Michele and I worked in practice together as two doulas, we figured out that what we have going is a really strong model, a really strong business model that we can then bring other doulas into. So we can support the doulas. We can be the doulas to the doulas who want to give all their love and support and expertise to their clients. So we have in place the structure, the business structure, so that our work is to be the agency, the representation for the doulas, and like to just not have everyone recreate the wheel.
Because I was watching all of these amazing, intuitive, emotionally mature, super educated about birth, been to, studied with some midwife somewhere off in the world for, and knew all these tricks. I was watching all these doulas be like, yeah, I can't do it because I don't know how spreadsheets work, or I want to do my work, but whatever, you can just pay me nothing if you want to. And I was like, this isn't sustainable. They're getting burnt out, or the best doulas are just like, ugh, not doing it. And that's not in service to all these people who need support when they're giving birth. So that's where when our partnership was working, we were like, we gotta make this work. We can only see so many clients, but if we replicate this and help all the doulas just show up and be amazing doulas and not have to worry about all of the logistical stuff, then we can really make a difference.
So tell us about some of the services that For Your Birth then offers, because it sounds like it's more of a service for the doulas as opposed to, or maybe it's both. I don't want to say what it sounds like. Maybe it's for the doulas as well as the women who are giving birth. but is it more so focused on doulas, as you said, and helping them make sure they have everything they need to be their best?
We're primarily concerned with the clients, so the pregnant people whose birth we're supporting, the families who we're supporting. And so we want to be our best for them, so we take care of the doulas so that the doulas can show up and be really strong support people to them, right? So yes, we are in service to both. So doulas who work with us hopefully feel really supported. They feel like we can take care of the administrative end of being a doula so that they don't have to. What they have to do is be the support person, be the hand to hold, be the resource to their clients. So we're servicing both parties.
And we offer, oh, sorry.
That's okay.
We also offer a lot of different arms of support for our clients. We do childbirth education, and then we do the birth, and then we do postpartum support, and then we help with breastfeeding. And so a lot of times the clients are coming to us first, and they don't even know what they want. And we get to sit down and be like, well, what did, they said, oh, well, I saw some YouTube video about and that sounds good. And we say, great, let's get you that. And do you want to hear about this? And so we develop a relationship with them, and then all of the stuff, if they need a payment plan or all of that kind of personal, financial, logistical things, we can really hold that. And then that's one of the ways that we can directly interact with the client in that way.
And do you also partner them with doulas? So if someone is, as you said, comes to you for, say, breastfeeding counseling, prenatal yoga instructing, hypnobirthing teachers, all of these services that you have, will you also pair a client with a doula or someone that during that process?
Yeah, because I think the client's experience a lot of times is that they might be pregnant and they're like, somebody said a doula was a good idea. Like,
how do I find one?
How do I find one? Like, my husband's going to faint if he sees blood or something. Like, what do I do? I'm scared. And then we hear from them and we get a little feel from them, and maybe they're, super woo, really out there. They want a boys choir to like start singing when the baby's coming. And we say, oh, I know what doula is definitely up your alley. Or the opposite. They're like, I want a project manager. I don't want anybody talking to me about, opening up my vagina like a flower. And then we say, we know. So we take out a lot of that potentially awkward interviewing and searching for doulas and all of that for both sides.
It sounds like a beautiful and important sort of matchmaking for the moms, making sure they have everything that they need that matches their style, so they're not going through the process of trying to find the right person when they're pregnant.
You nailed it, Elayne. That's what we are. We're matchmakers for your birth.
Now, we hear a lot more about doulas now, but what do you think are maybe 3 things that most of us misunderstand about doulas and their role in childbirth?
People think that doulas are midwives or midwives are doulas, and it's all the same thing. And what people need to know is that what a doula provides is physical, emotional, educational, and spiritual support to families as they're in this very vulnerable time of having a baby. We, unlike the midwife or the doctor, we do not take care of that prenatal or while in labor or postpartum health. So we're not delivering babies. We're not diagnosing anything. We are not medically trained. We are the support people. I like to say that we are the project managers for your birth. So we are the people who are going to help you navigate this journey. We're going to help you chart it out. We're going to hold your hand. And while in labor, we're going to rub your back and hold the bucket while you puke. Like that's how we roll our sleeves.
We have many times.
Yeah. And people also think that doulas are for folks who are giving birth naturally, and maybe they're doing that at home in a pool with Erykah Badu singing to them.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Would be amazing.
I do wanted to show up.
That's not necessarily what doulas do primarily. So doulas are in hospitals with people as they're birthing more often than they are at home, because not that many people are giving birth at home. And we're probably more valuable.
Yeah.
we're probably more valuable to people when they are in the hospital than we are at home. We're valuable wherever people are giving birth, but it's a really kind of tricky thing to navigate a hospital birth situation. And then finally, I would say that people sometimes think that they can't have a doula with them if they're giving birth with a doctor, that the doctor wouldn't allow it. And that's not true either. I mean, many doctors know that doulas are support people, and what they know is that you need support while giving birth, and not all doctors can give that hand-holding, completely there for you without having to care for other people's support. So a doula is a companion who you would bring to you to your birth as you would your partner. And we're not there to step on the toes of the partner. We're actually there to help that partner look really good.
We make that partner look really good. I've had so many clients say things like, oh, well, I don't need a doula because, or potential clients, I don't need a doula because my husband or my partner, is going to be there. And I really want them to be super integral. And my partner doesn't want you to be there because they really want to be hands-on. And I'm like, okay, cool. So, let me teach you a couple ways that he can squeeze your butt. Whatever. This is one thing that we do. And it gets kind of intricate and complicated. And then we talk to the dad a little bit, if it's a dad. And if they hire us, they eventually are like, oh, my husband was the best partner ever. Da, 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 da. And meanwhile, the partner's coming over to us going, remember that moment when
you were there, right?
And we're there to just make them look amazing. And then we're also there to say, hey, buddy, you need to go eat a sandwich.
Right, you're about to pass out.
Yeah, exactly. It's okay.
I also think it's another thing I've heard people talk about who I know who have used doulas, as you mentioned, I think is so important. Naima, you mentioned about being in the hospital, having a doula while you're in the hospital and not just the Badu experience at home in the pool with her singing, on and on or whatever. It's also in the hospital where if you, for whatever reason, as the mom, the woman who's giving birth, can't express yourself or don't feel like talking about what your birthing experience is supposed to be or as discussed. And sometimes there are complications, and not that, again, as you said, it's not that you are medically trained, but I would imagine, tell me if I'm wrong, people have said having a doula has helped them feel more at ease about having an advocate really there for them, how they hope things would go and being able to explain, et cetera, and communicate with the doctor. Because a doctor is delivering many babies that day, but you have a doula who's there really for you.
Right, that's right. And that is what our training is about. The training, we are taught to learn how to listen to our clients and to help our clients get what they want from the experience. And even if our clients don't have everything that they want, if they have a voice in the matter, if they're able to say something and make decisions for themselves, ask for time to talk and think, or ask for things to be explained to them a different way, those people often will report that their experience of giving birth was gratifying. It was good, better than not having had that voice. People who are not able to advocate for themselves or have another advocate in the room might report that, or are more likely to report that they didn't have a positive birth experience.
And for women who are interested in becoming doulas, what would you say are 3 important qualities for them, since you work with people on both sides, that's something that either you look for, that you find that a lot of your clients look for, or just even something that they need to know about becoming a great doula?
Well, if you're looking to become a doula, then as a full-time career, then my first thing to say is that you need to have a really strong support system in place regarding childcare and sleeping and those kinds of basic physiologic needs of yourself, because it's a lot of work. Or find another avenue, get creative about partnerships and collectives and agencies that can really have your back in that way. That's one thing I would tell them.
You also mentioned earlier about when you were both going through your training, all the other things that some women or doulas in general, not that it all has to be women, right? But think about this idea that, or not, they don't think about necessarily all the paperwork and all the other things, because you're basically your own business person, I would imagine, or a contractor, or however that works, there's a lot more than just being there for the birth experience, right?
There's so much more. Yeah, there's so much more. You are a person who's working in private practice as a doula traditionally. That's the most common route. Or you might belong to a group, or you might, so that's like a collective, or you may work for an agency. And For Your Birth is an agency of doulas who are our subcontractors. We help match them to clients and do all the behind the scene work, the logistics, so that they can show up for their clients fully.
Yeah.
I wanted to add on to the question though that Michele was asked about, or Michele started to answer about advice to people becoming doulas. I think it's really important that people who are becoming doulas be trained or already exhibit that they are emotionally present, that they are culturally competent, and that their clients can trust them when they are in probably what will be the most vulnerable situation of their life, which is giving birth.
This is really when doulas need to be into this picture, because the medical system as it's created right now is not, it is not culturally competent when it comes to especially Black women and queer families. And so if that's one of the places that it's really, really lacking. And so if you're a doula, then I think that that's a really important place to make sure that you are truly, truly listening and educated and fluent in that person's cultural experience, so that you can hear them even when they're not necessarily vocalizing for themselves or like verbalizing, you know?
Right.
You hear what's not being said.
Yeah, you hear what's not being said, exactly. And I know that's an important part of your mission too, to empower marginalized families with information regarding their birthing options. And I would imagine going through the process overall. Why was that an important part of For Your Birth?
Well, I'm going to be really blunt about this, but the United States is the only developed nation that has an increasing maternal mortality rate. And I know that this has gotten a little bit more press and a little bit more conversation, which is amazing, not nearly as much as we need. But there are some statistics that say that, and so this maternal mortality rate is, the disparities between white women and specifically Black women is egregious. And there are some statistics that say that Black women are 12 times more likely to die in childbirth than white women. And when we talk about in childbirth, we're talking about also, like so many weeks after childbirth. And that's what
up to a year after childbirth.
Yeah.
Is what we're talking about.
And so the 42-day mark is when if women are going to die after childbirth, for childbirth related causes, that is what we're talking about, these precious 42 to 60 days. So that I can speak to for 100 years. But your question was, what was your question? Your question was... Actually,
I want to know more about that. I was going to ask about the attention that just, one of the things I know of, might be some other things, but most recently where Serena Williams was, enlightened about this from her own experience. But because she was and is a famous person, and she even says that, obviously the doctor listened to her, but she felt like she had a voice that other women might not in those situations, other women like her, Black women especially, might not in those situations. So people are sort of more aware that exists, but there's such a high rate, as you mentioned, of, and I have friends, honestly, who have been through this too, where they say, this is what's wrong with me, or this is what I feel. And a doctor will sometimes almost try to talk them out of it.
Yeah.
And then they have this, experience. And if you don't have a doula there or someone else to advocate for you, or even if it's not that, just someone who trusts the doctor says this is what it is. And then something terrible happens. As you said, I didn't know it was that far after. I thought it was actually during childbirth.
That's the blind spot.
Right.
Is that postpartum period.
And doulas are actually with families, as you mentioned earlier, during that postpartum period as well, right? It's not just during the birth and that's it.
Yeah, that's a really good point to bring up. Yeah, doulas are, so there are birth doulas, and birth doulas are there to support people primarily before they give birth and during and immediately after. They'll see their clients maybe a day or two, a week or two after they have their babies. But people can also hire postpartum doulas. And at For Your Birth, we have postpartum doulas as well. And what a postpartum doula does is she'll come into your home to work 2 to 3 hours a day, however many days you like after you have your baby, to give you hands-on support in your home, to be a person who can answer your healing bodies questions, to answer your newborn care questions. She could probably assist you with feeding your baby, if you're breastfeeding, if you're bottle feeding, however you're feeding your baby. And she can be someone who can hold your baby while you take a shower, cry, and have a nap. And that's those services we don't know exist. And the postpartum time, like Michele said, is the blind spot. People spend a lot more time thinking about the actual birth and what that birth is going to be, but we don't give a lot of care and attention to, well, what are the 40, 50, 60 days after this baby's born going to be? How have we prepared in our home for this? How do we have support set up with family? Who's cooking? Who's doing housework? Who's going to allow this person who just had a baby time to be in bed and rest, or be in bed and feed her baby for those early months?
And so much of it is mental preparation too, right? If you can mentally prepare for that. I have a friend who had her baby via gestational carrier, I think is called, her sister. But she just talked about, once the baby was home and she felt like they didn't sleep for weeks. They hadn't planned for that.
Yeah.
So the family was there. But as you just said, well, who's going to do that? Thinking about those things beforehand. What time are you going to be here? When am I supposed to sleep exactly? And I remember it was just like, I don't even know what my own name is at this point. But that's when people break down. Like it sounds funny, but that's when sometimes terrible things can happen, right?
And that's what, and if you are just becoming a new parent and your baby is crying all the time and your nipples are all banged up and you're bleeding a lot, and then you get dizzy when you stand up, but nobody's there and you don't know and you don't want to be a bother, and people are coming over, but they're just bringing gifts and nobody's really not getting to
everybody's there, but not really present in the way.
Right. And then doula comes in and says, what do you mean you're bleeding? Go back to that part. Sorry, did you say that you were dizzy when you're standing up? Have you told your doctor that? And they're like, no, my doctor says it's nothing. They just say I'm dehydrated. Well, let's go back to the doctor. Let's frame this in a way that your doctor can hear. And let me hold your hand about how problem solve how you can get back to the doctor and who's going to take care of your baby when you're going to the doctor. And that, I know from experience, can save people's lives. I mean, that's a hard thing to say because the person lives, but like, what happens if that doesn't happen? And I know that does not happen. Then what happens? Do they end up in intensive care? Like, so the doula can, obviously we can't diagnose anything and we can't like give treatments for anything, but we can be another set of eyes that is just there for the mother-child dyad, just there. We're not there to, hang out or hold the baby because we think the baby's so cute, even though babies usually are very cute. Like that's a perk that we have. But yeah, we're there to make lentil soup and
constantly check in. We're there to check in, to be another set of eyes, another set of hands, and an expert in having seen this happen again and again.
Do you also work with adoptive families? So say if the mother didn't actually give birth, but there's an infant now in the house and they're going through a lot of the same things, even if not physically.
Absolutely. And I'm one of those moms, Elayne. I have my babies through adoption and I did not give birth to her. Some other brave woman who's now an integral part of my family is a birth mother. And absolutely, we had some doula love up in our house those first few weeks after our baby was born. And even though I knew what to anticipate and I was, more educated than most, I still definitely had some doula action in my family.
That's good. That's why thank you for sharing that. And that's why I wanted to mention too, as I mentioned with my friend, she didn't have that. She had some family there, but she didn't physically give birth to her daughter, but it's still what she definitely went through, the no sleep and all the other things that are part of the process that can lead to different kinds of stress. So for everyone listening, whether doula or family, babies don't, I'm going to cry and somebody's going to get all this to you. Always to you.
Right.
Yes. So for just to go
Elayne,
back
I
for a
wanted
moment.
to tell you, I could maybe just mention it right here, that we wrote a brief ebook called The Essential Guide to Postpartum Support that outlines for people what to expect after your baby is born and when you come home, and how to think about a plan or a strategy to enroll all those people who come by and drop off gifts or want to hold your baby, how to give them things to do that can be helpful and supportive to you. So if whether you have a postpartum doula or not, you can also have this essential guide to help you navigate that after you have your baby time, that postpartum time.
That's perfect. And we're all about support around here. So I will make sure that I link to the Essential Guide to Postpartum Support.
That's right.
Excellent. I love that. So for the marginalized families, just to go back to that for a second, how do you all, or what are the ways that For Your Birth focuses on those families? Is it just being aware that these families need more awareness about their options? Is it actually reaching out more so to those families, or what are you doing currently that you feel like is making sure that you stick to that mission?
Oh, Naima, we're both waiting for the other one to answer.
Yes.
Either one.
Go in. Jump in, Michele.
Oh, okay. What was I? Well, one of the things that we're doing right now that we're really excited about is we're holding a queer childbirth education, or what do we call it? It's a childbirth education for the queer family.
Mm-hmm.
And I am lucky enough to have developed that syllabus, and I'm teaching it, and it's so fun. And I just can't tell you how rewarding it is to be in a room of families that are queer and or are non-binary gendered identified and expecting to be parents, and how much that solidarity really affirms things and it really needles out the questions that need to be asked that we didn't even know needed to be asked, that affect our community more specifically, and how to get care that is going to best help with our healthiest and safest birth outcomes. So that's one thing that we're doing. And we actively hire culturally competent doulas that are women of color and that are queer educated. And yeah.
I love that. I love the idea of, well, I'm all about this, creating space for people to share their stories or share their problems, ask their questions and that kind of thing. That's what it sounds like you all are really making sure that you create a space for all people to have conversations around their birth experience and ask whatever questions they have.
That's right. That's right. That's what we want to do, because we firmly believe that this is your birth and it's your journey and it's never happened before. Although people are giving birth all day long, every day, this is yours and it's unique. And we want to show up to support you in this thing that won't happen again and is really, really important.
Now, are these workshops available yet online? Because I know there are, I have listeners in, thank goodness, 130 countries. So if they're hearing about this and they have a queer family or a family that's doing birth through adoption, or I'm sure they're interested in finding out more about For Your Birth, and especially if they're a workshop. We have the book. We'll make sure we link to that. But are there plans, if not already, to develop some online things that people can have access to?
We will definitely develop. Yeah. It's not yet available online. But
putting the pressure on you, ladies.
Yeah, the pressure is on. And Elayne, we will have it done.
All right. Got to do it.
Yeah, hold us accountable, all 130 countries.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, you can do, just as an idea with your workshop, Michele, you can just show it, have it recorded via Zoom, for example, like what we're doing, and have it video, and then you're already doing it. Someone can set up in the room and people can at least see it and engage online that way, even if it's not because I know it's a lot to set up a separate course and that kind of thing. So even just giving people access there, we'll talk.
I like that.
Fabulous.
That's great. I love it. So what would you say, maybe start with you, Naima, is the impact that you're hoping to have with women through For Your Birth? What is your vision?
We really don't want people to settle for what I call the default in birth. So the default is what we see in right? So someone goes screaming to the hospital, they throw their legs up and push, and they think that that's what giving birth is. Birth is so much more than that. It's emotional, it's spiritual, it's physical. It requires that we have people around us supporting us in loving ways. And so part of our vision is to show people that there are options and that they can carve out paths that work for them based on what's important to them. And we want people to know that they get to choose the support and how they want to be supported. So they get to choose who's there. They get to choose how they want people to be with them. They get to have their partners there, if they have partners in their lives, who feel empowered to be really supportive and have a voice and share in the experience. And then I think like part of our vision too is that we want people giving birth to know that they might be more powerful than they think they are. I mean, they grew this human inside their bodies, and their bodies are made to do that, and they're going to birth this baby. They could let their intuition guide them. They could allow other people in the room, like a doula or a partner, guide them as well. And that, you know, they are their child's first advocate, and they are their body's first advocate. And sometimes people just need to have permission to own that, so that they can really live into it.
And in a system like the medical system that we have right now, where, and I really want to preface this, that I'm not like adversarial with doctors or anything. I have doctors in my family. But the way that the medical system is right now, it really encourages people to kind of just shut down and go with the flow and become a little cog in the factory of like, now it's time for you to have your baby. And a lot of those choices are based off of the hospital and the way that the hospital industry works, which a lot of those choices are not based off of the best evidence that we have about having the safest and healthiest birth. So I really want to make sure that people know that there is a way to have your individuality, and there is a way to have a collaborative relationship with your doctor, and there is a way to practice the best evidence in terms of what is going to make your birth the healthiest and the safest, that you can find those niche, like those little avenues within a hospital that you might not know and that are available. And that if you do that, you're probably veering off of like that same path that the United States is going towards in terms of our statistics.
Mm-hmm. Now, Michele,
I would just add too that it's possible that your doctor wants you to have this information. It's not as if this information like is like being held as a secret and being held away from people. It's just that your doctor's role doesn't allow her or him to provide this information to you. So that's where we step in alongside. Hopefully, we want to work in partnership alongside the medical professionals, the doctors and the nurses and the midwives, to fill a gap that just the system creates.
That's a good point. And the doctors, as we mentioned too, they have so many other patients that they're seeing, right? And it's hard to be present in that way for everyone.
And they have obligations to the hospital and to their malpractice and to their own physiologic needs because they're exhausted, and their student loans and all of that. And I always think about nurses and labor and delivery nurses. They come into this profession because they're like, oh, I can't wait to help women give birth. You know, like this will still be great. And then they have 15 people to deal with on a 12-hour shift, and they don't get paid as much. And like, there's a hospital in New York City, I'm not going to name which one, that their labor and delivery nurses don't get maternity leave. What? And you're just like, what's going on? Like, so they are not supported to be the best supporters for their job. So a doula can really, it can be a great part of that whole team to really round out what confines the other providers.
Now, speaking of in New York, one of you I know is in Philadelphia and one is in New York. So where is For Your Birth located in any particular location? In other words, I guess it doesn't matter where it's located. More so, can people from anywhere, doulas or families, get in touch from wherever they are, or is it mainly for a certain region that you serve?
We offer
people can be in touch. Oh,
yeah.
Go for it. You got it.
No, please, Naima, please.
So I'll finish Michelle's sentence. So she was starting to say that we offer consultation to people wherever they are in the world. So we can set up a video call, a phone call with you to talk about the plans that you have for your birth, to help you figure out the questions that you need to be asking your care providers, to help you think through next steps, to help you think through that care after you bring your baby home. So we can do that over a phone call with anyone wherever they are. If you want hands-on services, we're primarily in New York right now. We do hope to expand. Philadelphia will be the next place where we'll provide classes. We'll have classes in Philly. We'll have doulas in Philly. More hands-on support there. But yeah, people can be in touch with us, and we are happy to make a phone call get on the call and do a consult with anyone wherever they are in the world. And we also have the Essential Guide for Postpartum Support as an ebook that, of course, anyone can purchase and download.
Excellent. So, Michele, in closing, if you think over your life and career, and you had the chance to thank only one person whose support was critical to you personally or professionally, who would that be, and what would you say?
Oh my gosh, Elayne, what a heavy question. Could you ask me that again?
No problem. This is for both of you, of course. I put you on the spot and started.
I know.
If you think over your life and career, and you had the chance to thank only one person whose support was critical to you personally or professionally, who would that be, and what would you say?
Well, I guess it's my mommy. And I can just see her face right now listening to this podcast when I say that. But really, I do want to thank her for being an amazing role model about, again, like I said before, like her hustle and her, like, I'm going to make this work. And I have actually thought about this in the middle of the night in a hospital room, 17 hours into supporting somebody's labor. I have thought the way that I know how to support this woman in labor is directly because my mom is so good at supporting me, and that is what I base that off of. So not only is she my biggest fan, and that I could come up with the craziest idea and she'd be like, well, great, let's figure it out. But also, I've watched her do it, and also just the way that she has loved me and supported me made it so that I could have the confidence to do what I do and have the skills to not only just be a businesswoman, but also to be able to deeply connect with my heart to somebody who is in the middle of birthing their own child.
Beautiful. And Naima?
That was great, Michele. I'm also going to shout out my mom. I'm going to say thank you to my mom, because I wouldn't be doing this work today had I not made a phone call to my mom when I was 20 weeks pregnant with my first son. And I called her to say that I was upset with my doctor at the time. And my mom said, why don't you fire him? You don't have to give birth with that doctor if you don't like him. And why don't you watch this movie called The Business of Being Born? And both of those things were completely new ideas to me. I didn't really have in me, I didn't have this sense of authority that I could say to a doctor, you're fired and I don't want to do this with you. And I didn't know about this documentary that broke down what it means today to give birth in the hospital. And so because of those two things, I completely did a 180 in my career, in how I birthed my baby, how I chose care for myself, and now how I support people and have built this business.
Nice. So The Business of Being Born, is that the name of the movie?
It is. It's a movie that Ricky Lake was a producer of about 12 or 15 years ago, maybe 12 years ago.
It's kind of dated now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. They need to do a remake.
It influenced a whole generation of doulas, I think.
Interesting.
Yeah,
So I
that's
will try
right.
to make sure to find. I love that your mom first empowered you with, and which is sort of what we talked about going back to why people need doulas, right? Just that person to be able to say, you can fire that doctor and find someone that you really feel good about.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes, and when we think that we're so smart and we have all the information and we know how to do this,
Right.
but sometimes the easiest solutions are really hard to provide. At least you can't figure it out on your own.
When you're in the
And
middle
as
of it.
doulas, when you're in it, right, because it's so emotional, it's so taxing and draining that you can't see what's crystal clear.
So now, what are the ways that we can support you both? Tell everyone. I'll have links, of course, to the website, the ebook. I'm going to find that movie if I can. But tell all of us the ways that we can support you and anything else you want us to know.
Well, you can find us on the web at foryourbirth.com. We're also on social media at foryourbirth on Facebook and Twitter. I'm sorry, at Facebook and Instagram. And on Twitter, we're at foryourbirth.nbsp. So those are all our social media handles. You could link to them through our website as well. And you can support us by, if you are not a person who is planning to give birth anytime soon, but you know someone who is, then pass on our information to them. Everyone, maybe someone in the office, someone at your school, your neighbor, you know someone who's having a baby. The Essential Guide to Postpartum Support is available on our website for $4. It's
get your friends together at the office and buy them a postpartum doula. Because listen, people have enough baby wipe warmers, and people have enough
right.
mobiles with little chickens, hand woven organic wool chickens on their mobiles. People don't need that. People need somebody to come in there and make it so their nipples don't bleed. And so if you might not know that that's what you're providing, but I think everybody at your office get together and everybody pitch in $15 and then get something that's going to last for 3 weeks. Support that could, not to be dramatic, save her life, but also make it so that she can look back on her postpartum period and say, oh, what a delicious time to get to know my baby and to know what it was to be a mom and to celebrate my healing body, et cetera, et cetera. That's what I think.
I love that as an idea for a gift, though. That's really good.
Yeah. And people can just share. If you are listening to this now and you've learned something about doula support, share it with one other person. Because that's also what we want to do at For Your Birth. We want to raise the profile of doulas who are doing this good work every day, and folks don't know about it.
New York City is a pretty groovy place to get a doula, and yet we're only going to 6% of births. 6. That's it.
Interesting. Now, what is I have just one last question, but what is the pricing range that people should be prepared to invest for a postpartum doula, or is it based on time spent, or is it something
It's based
else?
on time spent. Yeah. So if you are investing in a postpartum doula at For Your Birth, you are going to pay $560 for someone to spend 10 hours over a number of days, however many days you like. Maybe that's 2 or 3 days, supporting you in your home. So like Michele says, no one really needs more woven chickens to hang on their strollers. Invest the money in
I don't even know what that is. I
don't either. I just made it up.
We just made it up.
Is that a thing?
It's not. No, it could be a thing. I don't know. There's a product idea for someone. But no, people don't need all this stuff that's being thrown at them in marketing around what to have. What people don't realize that they need is support. It's our biggest blind spot after we have our babies. We think that we can do it all. We think that needing support means that we're weak. And really, 10 hours, 20 hours is not that much when you consider that your newborn is going to be a newborn for months and months and months. Get some help. And your body's healing.
That's right. Excellent. I love it. Now, before we go, thank you. Well, first of all, thank you both. This was it's so enlightening for me too, just to hear, really to hear what it's like. I love that you service, I should say, or serve both sides, the clients, of course, the women who are giving birth and the families, and then also the doulas themselves. I think you have such an interesting business, which is why I was excited to speak to you. So I'm so glad that we were able
to Thank you so much, Elayne. This was really fun. This time really flew by. I enjoyed it.
And your podcast is really knocking it out of the park. I just want to say that.
Thank you. Bless you.
It is. You're a big inspiration. You're doing a lot and talking to so many movers and shakers. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yes. All women. Love it.
All women.
Before you go, from you both, what's a parting piece of advice from you to our listeners about anything? Michele, you want to go
I would say
first?
that.
Oh, Naima, you go first. Michele went first on the big question.
I just want to remind everyone that the help that you need after you have your baby is a blind spot for us all. So now that you know that that's a blind spot, plan for it. Like, don't miss it. It can be a really wonderful, warm, delicious time if you can put in like all the support that people require after they have their babies. And so many people sometimes suffer unnecessarily because that support is missing.
And then what I would say is, well, when you said to our listeners, I'm thinking of myself as a listener to your podcast and thinking that I listen as an entrepreneur. And so what I would say to other entrepreneurs and to bridge it to new parents is what I say to a lot of my clients right after they have their baby. They think that their house needs to be clean and that they need to know what they're doing and that they need to like have showered in the last 3 days and that, you know, all of these ideas that we're supposed to like bounce back and know exactly what we're doing. But I think that becoming a new parent and being an entrepreneur, you have to be creative and you have to go with the flow and you have to know that what Naima has taught me in abundance is progress over perfection. That if the baby is doing great today and you got a 20-minute nap, that's better than nothing. Did you shower in the last week? Who cares? We need to lower the bar about being perfect and really get into the integrity of taking care of ourselves and doing a good job and moving the ball forward. So I think that there's something more about that I could speak to, but I'm not articulating it as well as I could. But going with the flow and making it up as you go along is the work. That's it. We don't have to know how to be a mom or know how to run a business until we're just running a business or we're just being a mom.
Yeah.
That's right. Progress.
I think that's perfect.
It is perfect. All right. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did with Naima and Michele. Progress over perfection and making sure that you have an advocate definitely during your birthing process, but also in your life. We're all about getting support around here. Now, to find out more about Naima and Michele, to find out more about For Your Birth and how to download their ebook, The Essential Guide to Postpartum Support, and so much more, make sure you go to supportissexypodcast.com, go to that search icon at the top and type in Naima, Naima, or you can search Michele, Michele. Their show notes page will pop up with the links, the resources, and the ways to get in touch with them. Supportissexypodcast.com, and actually, you can just search For Your Birth. That'll probably be easier to remember. Just search For Your Birth. The show notes page will pop up, and all the links will be there for you. Thank you so much for being here. You know I appreciate you. Now, until we chat again, always remember, support is sexy and having it all doesn't mean doing it all alone. And I'll talk to you soon. Take care.